Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago's Carnival is on in spite of the rise in COVID-19 cases and branded the Mother of All Carnivals. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 16th January 2023. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago says that the rise in COVID-19 cases may be cause for concern, but not for panic. He and members of the COVID-19 pandemic response team explained why this is so, even though Carnival is so close at hand. More in this TTT news item.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, during his press conference on Thursday, noted that we have entered the fourth year of the pandemic.
I want to start by saying, let's calm down. But let's be serious and let's pay attention. I have not been at this platform since, I forgot how long ago, early last year. The middle of last year, I think it was, we ended up. Because we are doing what we never thought we'd be doing. We are entering 2023, which is year 3, 4, a new fourth year. We started talking about a pandemic in 2019.
He said the strategy for handling the recent increase in cases is very different to that used in 2019. This, as there's more information available on the virus. Principal Medical Officer Miriam Abdul-Richards explained that the parallel healthcare system is now being transitioned to the point where COVID cases are being handled by the traditional system.
Dr. Hines would have indicated that as of December, we would have noticed an increase in the confirmed 7-day rolling average of confirmed cases, and this inevitably leads to an increase in the demand for hospital beds.
She said this had been so for the last month, with 21 patients as of today in the new transitioned hybrid system. Prime Minister Rowley confirmed that Carnival is still on, noting this is as a result of the healthy level of immunization in the populace.
So when people ask, are we going to close the border or so, that is not a necessary response at this time. Our response has to be to suppress the spread of what we have amongst us.
Marie-Therese Bernard for TTT News.
And at the West Mall, there was a special focus on getting those living with diabetes vaccinated and boosted against COVID-19. Why? Well, the health minister says more than roughly half of the 4,297 people who died from COVID-19 were diabetic. TV6's Jewel Brown reports.
During the continuation of the Health Ministry's relaunch of its vaccination drive against COVID-19 and influenza at the Western Atrium of the Falls at West Mall on Friday, Sylvina Ramlagan went to get a COVID vaccine booster. Sitting beside her was Health Minister Terence Dialsing. Also present was Andrew Danu, the president of the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago. The reason? Friday's event had a particular focus as the government is encouraging those who are not yet vaccinated or are yet to get a booster to do so now to help avoid a major surge in COVID cases after Carnival. The concern about the new COVID variant and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and then I mix with aged elderly people. So I am 74 years, but I don't want to spread it to nobody. So, and in contact with Mr. Dano and Diabetes Association, I'm always advised to take the vaccine. I'm happy.
This was your first dose, your second?
No, this is the third one.
Oh.
The third one. And it's okay, I haven't been sick. No symptoms or anything, as usual. I would advise anybody who's scared, go and take the vaccine.
Mr. Danu said there are many people living with diabetes in Trinidad and Tobago.
And I mean not just diabetes, but other non-communicable diseases. And one that we rarely speak about is obesity. Trinidad is a nation that's growing in size, and this actually puts you at greater risk for developing complications if you get COVID-19. So persons living with diabetes, persons with high blood pressure, persons with cancer, cardiovascular disease, if you're overweight, then you should be taking a vaccine.
In that context, Health Minister Terence Dayal Singh announced a startling statistic with regard to the number of deaths attributed to COVID-19 since the first case of the virus was confirmed in Trinidad and Tobago in March of 2020.
We know that 54.2% of the persons who passed from COVID-19 were diabetic, had diabetes as a comorbidity. So roughly half of the 4,200 odd, so roughly 2,100 were diabetic. The question needs to be asked, if they were not diabetic, how many of them would have been here to see Christmas just gone, New Year's just gone? Vaccines work.
Mr. Danu said young people should take a lesson from Ms. Ramlagan, especially now that the Carnival 2023 season is now underway.
And as Sylvina said, I mean, she's 74 and she's thinking about other people. Young persons need to think about other people as well. You need to think about your family. Think about your mother and your grandmother. I mean, you're going out to Lyme, you're going to a fete, and you contract the virus, and you come home and your parents aren't vaccinated. How are you going to feel if you really take that home to them and they have no protection? So we're really trying to encourage them. We're appealing not just to persons living with diabetes, but everyone out there. Try to get that vaccine. Get the COVID-19 vaccine, get the booster, get the flu shot if you can.
The new COVID and influenza vaccine drive ends on February 4th. Jules Brown, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
The ceremonial opening of the law year of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court was held on the 10th of January under the theme, the ECSC, Navigating the Changing Times. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline tells us more.
Dame Janice Pereira, Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, addressed members of the legal profession via a Zoom-facilitated address to the court's constituents of the Eastern Caribbean, including St. Kitts and Nevis. Chief Justice Pereira spoke to the need to complete the electronic mitigation portal, among other important projects aimed at modernizing and creating a service-oriented digital court system. Critically, she addressed issues relevant to the perceived waning of public confidence in the judicial system that is important also for the region's developing democracies.
Why is this a dire problem? Simply put, it is the trust and confidence of the public, which gives courts their very legitimacy to dispense justice. Canon Reed Simon spoke about this in his well-delivered homily. He spoke about delays in justice and challenged us to do what is just, righteousness and justice. When members of the public lose faith in the institution of the judiciary and its authority, they are more likely to take matters into their own hands. This is a most undesirable state of affairs, and it must be avoided at all costs. And so the question is this: how can we, as judicial officers, as members of the legal profession, be more responsive to what is emerging as a growing lack of confidence in the system's ability to meet the needs of ordinary people? In my view, we must do all that we can to promote public trust and confidence in the work that we do each day by continuing to faithfully perform the duties of your office, be it on the bench or be it at the bar.
Adhering to codes of conduct, implementing modern ethical and time standards, and more effective engagement with the general public could help resolve the concerns, according to the Chief Justice. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
In the meantime, a call was made for the strengthening and expanded role of the bar associations in the OECS countries. Glenn Bart again of SKN Newsline reports.
Curlin Merchant commented on the matter when speaking on behalf of the OUCS Bar Associations during the 10th January opening ceremony of the new law year of the OUCS Supreme Court.
I believe the time has come for our islands to strengthen the role and purpose of our associations as set out in our respective legal profession acts. In consideration and preparation for our next normal, Madam Chief Justice, I submit that we have made sufficient technological advancements to seriously consider mandatory continued legal education training throughout the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court territories and member states, and mandating the payment of our bar due fees within all our territories. There is no doubt that these considerations will also serve to strengthen our courts and jurisprudence. As we continue to navigate the changing tides and look towards the future of this noble profession, the focus of our Bar Association for the coming year would be on 1, further improvements in the frequency and quality of our continued legal education training, 2, playing a more integral role in integrating newly admitted attorneys into the practice of law, 3, advocating for legal reform on archaic and inadequate legislation within our territories and member states, 4, increased public awareness of the work of our disciplinary committees. 5, an increased public education on current and relevant legal areas. And 6, improvements in our social activities as a bar geared at improving relations and relationships with our members.
Merchant believes that such measures will help the legal profession and allow associations to be adaptive and effective in a changing environment. Glenbart reporting for SK Newsline.
More than $1 billion robbed from Jamaica's Stock and Securities Limited. Javon Keys of TVJ News has more.
TVJ News understands that a former manager at Stocks and Securities Limited SSL has been implicated in the fraud. She stole money from roughly 40 investors. According to sources, the fraudulent activity dates back from as far as 2010. It is believed that the employee in question has allegedly been selling shares of SSL clients without their knowledge while providing them with false financial statements. She is represented by attorney Tamika Harris.
I can confirm that I do represent the person the police have some interest in. I can confirm that the person has not yet been charged, and we are in dialogue. I do believe that the police officers want to do a question and answer, and she is making herself available. I have indicated to them her willingness to come in and have that dialogue and have that discussion, and we are arranging a date and time.
SSL confirmed the incident in a statement indicating that its management, quote, became aware of fraudulent activity by a former employee of the company, unquote. It says, quote, following initial internal investigations, the management referred the matter to the relevant law enforcement authorities to facilitate a thorough and complete examination of all aspects of the matter, unquote. To ensure the integrity of the probe, the company says it has taken steps to secure its assets and strengthen internal protocols to detect suspicious activity in the shortest possible time. The company says it will continue to liaise and cooperate fully with law enforcement throughout the investigation and ensure that the responsible parties face the full consequence of the law. It's understood that the Financial Services Commission, FSC, has mandated a pause in SSL's operations, citing what it calls exposure to possible fraudulent activities. The matter is being investigated by the Fraud Squad with help from the Financial Investigation Division, FID. Javon Keys, TVJ News.
Hubbard's is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at hubbardshardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.